544 KTSM 915-544-5876 or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, whichever works for you, as Ida Bezagard already chiming in there. Hello to you as well, with the hand wave emoji, of course, here. Also, those dropping those likes and reacts already, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Ida Gardner, and Monica Cervantes. Again, we appreciate it. If you appreciate having live local talk radio here on the borderland, the ability to talk about the issues that certainly affect us here locally, and that we, can have some impact on ourselves whenever it comes to how we respond, react, or at the very least become aware of it. I mean, knowing is half the battle, to quote the old G.I. Joe line. Should have that as a sound button here. But in any case, we'll keep doing that as we do every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. We also have Austin Redfern. Good afternoon to you as well. And bunch to get into here today. Both some newsy things as well as some important things to keep in mind. One, a no-show from El Paso's district attorney in a recent, today actually, status update for the August 3rd case, and some orders coming out regarding that and related to it. Some of the details there from our news partners and other local reporting here. What's going on with some of those other things going on in county government, such as, of course, the continuing discussion anyway, before any definitive action on that next round of public funding that is being discussed, particularly by the county of El Paso, in, what's the actual number here? 2 7-figure amounts, 8-figure? Let me do my math there. In any case, $100 million each, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at there in terms of potential certificates of obligation and general obligation, general bond financing, and what that means. But also a little bit more about, again, we have some of the important deadlines coming up with Medicare and the open enrollment period. So some notes from some local organizations involved in both providing that and educating people as well as that. But also, of course, immigration situation, as we have had a little bit of upheaval even just within this last week specifically. Yeah, I know, saying like, oh, it's been an upheaval. The question would be like, when are you talking about? You have to be more specific. Talking about this week with this kind of yo-yo on Title 42 and what has already been marked here locally in terms of impact to be seen from that. So, yeah, I'm okay. I need to find a different phrase. Chock full show for you. I don't know. I could keep liking jam-packed, but yeah, a lot to get to here today. And John Brazelton was particularly commenting on the district attorney situation, saying, remove the DA from her position, make her refund any salary paid. I'm not sure that second part could be like mandated, but of course there is the civil case that is progressing, date set now in March for her potential removal from office. Now, I know that there are more potential things even before that, such as seeking an injunction, but in the meantime, notably absent the El Paso district attorney, as well as the main assistant district attorney not presiding, but on the district attorney side of things from the office point of view on the August 3rd case, of course, stemming from the 2019 Cielo Vista Walmart shooting, notably absent here. Our news partners over at KFOX 14 and CBS 4 were in the 409th District Courts with Judge Sam Medrano, and again, Yvonne Rosales, El Paso's district attorney, and Assistant District Attorney Curtis Cox were not at the Tuesday status hearing, instead presiding, or again, using that phrase, not the right way here. The judge is the one presiding, and I don't want to get in trouble with the judge without damn good reason. Point is that an attorney from Houston, Charles Kyle Vance, addressed the court on Tuesday on behalf of the prosecution. And I mean, there's not necessarily, strictly speaking, a requirement. I mean, these are status hearings. This isn't the trial itself here. Yeah, no one from the district attorney's office was there during the trial itself. Issues, let's just call that broadly. But more specifically, this is apparently not totally going to fly, that kind of thing, with Judge Sam Medrano. He notably previously put on the gag order in this case, and why, even though there have been court filings, essentially speaking maybe potentially to this, quoting directly from that, we cannot understand how a duly elected public official avoids the office. That from the filing from Attorney Joe Spencer, who is now on the defense of this case, said in those court filings regarding attempts to serve Rosales at the El Paso County Courthouse, her home, and other locations, along with other members of the district attorney staff, quoting from the El Paso Matters on the reporting on this, as they also note that now the judge has ordered that they be present at the next hearing set for the end of the month. So that's upcoming on November 30th. And so that's just interesting situation. Ion Graham asking, did they ever find her? Isn't she MIA? I'm not sure if it technically qualifies as that, though. Having never been subject to it myself, my understanding, given the tenacity of process servers, those dudes and people, whoever they are, coming out and then handing you subpoenas or serving you with court documents, again, knock on wood, that'll never happen to me. But my understanding of their tenacity of it, that obscure would be probably a good way to put it here, as they're making themselves. But again, the judge apparently not happy with this and ordering again that the district attorney appear at the next status hearing. So I guess if I was the process server, I'd be taking that as a slight note on, oh, okay, that's where I need to make sure to head out there. But of course, there are some other things even going on when it comes to other parts of local government, particularly that in the county government. We talked a little bit about yesterday with the Stephania Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners there at KFOX 14, about how there is a couple of buckets of $100 million being considered for the El Paso County side of government. Of course, we had the city bond, and don't get these mixed up. These could be both certificates of obligation bonds going on there. Some of the comments, we'll get into these here in just a second. Just want to make this point real quick, that yes, there is the certificates of obligation potentially from the county, about $100 million being considered there, and then general obligation bonds, another $100 million roughly being considered there. I mean, this has been a ongoing conversation even since the start of this month, being winnowed down from like about 150 capital projects being considered. So no definitive action on that so far. I know people were discussing that yesterday, so I wanted to make that quick point on it here. They're voting to come back to discuss the issue, particularly with Commissioner Ileana Holguin saying the county needed more time to review the proposal and needed to conduct more public outreach. And noting also from our news partners there that all the citizens who spoke during the public comment at the meeting were against the county's $100 million certificates of obligation and against the vote on issuing a notice of intent. Now, of course, we talked about some of those priorities, including like the Davids Airport, County Annex, County Courthouse, developing a county-wide access control system, which, again, individual products may have merit, but, them going back not exactly to the drawing board, but to take another look at it and discuss it further before taking action, because that notice of intent to issue would start that minimum, to my understanding, 45-day countdown, but it could, of course, be maybe a little bit longer than that here. Some other comments coming in about the district attorney's office. RJ saying hide and seek champs was a joke, but now the DA's office is officially I'm not happy with that. Clown Town, I think, if I'm reading the emoji around that right. And Richard Janicek saying that maybe you need to have some other officials in the area locate the district attorney. Well, now that she's been ordered to, would expect that there's a very good chance he will show up at the November 30th hearing, which, again, note to the process servers wondering about that. But, I mean, this whole situation, I'm almost loath to comment on it sometimes, because the fact of the matter is that these are very serious situations involving this August 3rd prosecution being one of the more significant bits of courtroom action to have happened in this community, at the very least within living memory. But making sure that's actually done correctly has been my primary focus and our focus here on this program. So I guess as much as y'all definitely are entitled to your opinions on this here, I'm going to hold back until we know definitively what's going to be happening and if this is going to actually impact this trial, because that is the primary focus, the most important thing to me personally anyway, because anything interfering with that, I can't even imagine what would come after that here. So due for that first break of this hour right now. Coming out of this break, a quick interview for you all. Notes on some important dates coming up, particularly when it comes to Medicare and open enrollment. So I got a quick interview on those notes here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments coming in online and all the social media platforms we're on. Also more on the phone lines a little bit later in the program once we open those up. But in any case, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Well, it's a big slowdown on the 10 eastbound downtown. It is a crash. I-10 eastbound at Piedras from earlier. No lanes blocked, just the right and left shoulders blocked, but still causing a backup back to Yandell with 10-minute delays. 54 south is slow. McCombs to Kenworthy, 13-minute delays. Injury accident dire at Will Ruth. And police said a crash southbound Mesa Street at Sunland Park. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
As you crunch the numbers trying to get the most out of your dollar, we'll throw in a $1,000 inflation bonus. Much better. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen to win $1,000 every hour, weekdays from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. It's the 1,000 inflation bonus on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by The Verdict with Ted Cruz podcast.
I'm Ben Ferguson.
And I'm Ted Cruz. Listen to our podcast, Verdict with Ted Cruz. We discuss the disaster of Republicans losing the Senate, the critical runoff in Georgia, and Senate leadership elections this week.
So download Verdict with Ted Cruz right now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now. So do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. Annual enrollment is from October 15th to December 7th. This is the time to select a Medicare Advantage plan and start enjoying great benefits. Part C plans can help you add vision, dental, hearing, prescriptions, gym membership, and some plans can even help reduce the cost of Part B. If you are new to Medicare or just need to renew, Medicare Prepare is here to help. Visit them at 10295 North Loop Drive or call Medicare Prepare at 915-626-5113. In-home appointments available.
It's easy to get wrapped up in the spirit of giving, but you might be giving away more than you want. During the holidays, more shopping online means more exposed personal information. But LifeLock by Norton has identity theft protection all wrapped up. And if you become a victim, they work to fix it with you. No one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but you can save up to 25% off your first year right now. 1-800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or lifelock.com, promo code BACK for 25% off.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Number of people tuning in there, chiming in there as well. Phone lines a little bit later, as we usually do, but some of the comments coming in, such as Eric McNabb, RJ, John Brazelton, Richard Genesee, Ion Grimm, Austin Redfern, Ida Beza Gardner. In addition, those dropping those likes and react, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and more. So again, you can, one of the better ways you can do so throughout all of the show here, and more commentary coming in on other things for her, commentary on El Paso's district attorney and the situation there. RJ saying, honestly, it's sad in time to let the Texas Attorney General and feds try the case. get him his deserves injection. Again, we will continue on this program officially anyway to refer to it as the indicted suspect in this case, as well as the pending litigation that is going to be going on in this, because those are the technical terms about what is actually going to be progressing. Y'all are certainly entitled to your opinions on this here. Again, the focus that we are having is definitely making sure this trial continues, because I cannot personally imagine much of a worse possible outcome than anything being procedurally done, it happening on technicalities or anything like that. That is not decidedly what this community deserves, regardless of whatever you think that the verdict in this case should be. Anyway, switching gears here real quick for you, quick interview for you today on some of those important dates. Yes, you've heard a lot of it going by, but I got the chance to sit down, and Banner says it's Wednesday. Oh, shoot, we'll have to fix that on the part of the show here, but appreciate the notes. In any case, yes, we are going to be talking about, as we're getting these dates not mixed up here anyway, those Medicare and open enrollment deadlines are coming up here. So I got the chance to sit down with one of the local groups that is focused on that El Paso health, the health plan, and working to, in a nonprofit way, make sure that people can figure out what is accessible to them. So I was able to speak with them here briefly earlier. So here is that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Viri Garcia, Medicare Manager with El Paso Health. Thank you very much for joining us here today.
Good morning. Thank you.
So there's a lot to talk about whenever it comes to health insurance, benefits, and particularly this season that we are in now. But for those that may not be familiar or may have lost track of time, like I kind of have when it comes to the fact that it's almost already Thanksgiving, which it felt like it was the start of the month just yesterday. If people are wondering what are some of the important dates they need to keep in mind whenever it comes to those important phrases, such as, again, open enrollment, what do they need to know, and what are some of the deadlines that are rapidly approaching here?
So right now, the most important thing to know is that we are during our time frame of annual enrollment period for anyone under Medicare, and the deadline to make any changes for January 1st would be December 7th.
So December 7th is the next very important upcoming one then, which will be less than a month away here as we are recording, so rapidly approaching, certainly. And when it comes to those who qualify under this, again, open enrollment is what we're talking about, particularly with Medicare, but as always happens, there may be some who are confused or unsure about what that means. So, I mean, there's a lot of important medical phrases and insurance phrases out there, Medicaid, Medicare, and some other ones that you all deal with, including, other benefits, card costs, those kind of things here. So what are some of those basic definitions that people need to know to understand what they might qualify for?
So for anyone who has Medicare, there are a lot of options available to them. There are many different Medicare Advantage plans, such as, El Paso Health. We are a Medicare Advantage plan that services people who have Medicare and Medicaid. And so it's very important that if you do not know exactly what you qualify for, that you get informed as far as what your options are for your coverage for the upcoming year.
So, of course, they can contact you all, but for those wondering if they should even bother, what are some of those, again, base level qualifications that they need to know about for Medicare specifically?
For Medicare specifically, the qualifications are based, of course, on the time frame that you spend working, also age. Some people do obtain Medicare based on disability, and for the most part, it's based on age, whether it's 65 and older. So there's a lot of questions that come with that. But I mean, we can always help you get the information that you need.
Absolutely there. So as we are in this open enrollment period, this is the time frame in which people can make those changes for next year. And unless there are other serious qualifying events, which can also happen, we'll get into that here in just a minute. I mean, what are some of those things that they need to keep in mind? I mean, you mentioned that you can help walk them through things, but when you're doing that, what are some of those major considerations? I mean, about benefit levels, about different types of services, and what are some of the things that you all as a locally based plan really focus on?
Well, we mainly focus on providing the services that, people need. So it's really important that when you're going over your coverage, that you do have the services available such as, if you're needing dental coverage, if you're needing vision, your medications are super important. And then also, on the medical side, you need to make sure that all your doctors, your specialists, the things that you need are being covered. And so it's always a good thing to do an assessment of what you currently have as a plan, opposed to the options that you have, just so you can make sure that you get the coverage, that you need for the upcoming year.
Of course, for people that have previously had Medicare coverage, they may have, some kind of comparison that they can do with previous years versus what is available this year. But say for someone starting from scratch, someone just qualifying now for Medicare with either those age times or other qualifying events like we mentioned, what are some of the starting points that you would mention or want people to look at, particularly if they're, making some of those major transitions into retirement, fixed income, those kind of things?
More importantly, you do need to make sure that you obtain all the information. So if, for example, you're going to be new to Medicare, you want to make sure that you have all the information as far as what your options are. If there's other services that you qualify, such as Medicaid, there's a discount with the prescription. So all of that information is what we help our members with. When you really start with Medicare, it's really confusing. You do not have all the information. And so what we try to do is that we try to do an assessment and let you know the information that you need. That way you can know what you qualify for, whether it's just a Medicare Advantage plan, whether you also qualify for Medicaid assistance, the different options available to them.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Vidi Garcia, Medicare Manager with El Paso Health, speaking specifically about El Paso Health Plus, the Advantage Dual SNP. If you want to find out more information about them, those services, and more details, of course, ephmedicare.com. That's ephmedicare.com. So, of course, you all are a locally based plan. And one of the reasons we're talking with you all as well is that you all are also a plan that is focused on benefit primarily for those people that are signing up for it, right?
Yes, correct. We are locally here. You can always come and visit us at our office. Our office is located at 1145 Westmoreland Drive. We will be more than happy to assist you here. You can also call us by the phone, or you can get more information on our website. And like I said, we're here locally. We can help anyone who has questions just overall about Medicare, Medicaid, anything like that.
Absolutely. So again, getting back into the benefits here, there's been a lot of changes in medical coverage and necessary services in the last few years. I mean, the trend that had been going on even before pandemic issues had started coming up were, of course, transportation, the idea of actually making it so that particularly those that may have limited mobility or not much mobility at all anymore, or at least the not an ability to drive themselves, that being a serious impediment to going like to and from medical appointments, that was a major service that was getting added on and something that you all offer. But when it comes to actually new things, I mean, telehealth, other aspects like that, personal in-home devices, what are some of those things that you all are looking at or that you all are making sure you're wanting people to be informed of as it comes to the benefits this year?
So for the benefits this year, I mean, we just want to provide all the information that we can. As far as the Medicare Advantage plan, we do cover services, like you mentioned, transportation, which is a big thing for all of us, is that if we cannot get to our appointments, we do have transportation service available for the medical appointments. We also have coverage for, their personal emergency response system. This is a device that, is helpful when it comes to someone that's living alone. And in case of an emergency, that device can help them to contact, the local 911. We also cover, your dental, your vision, all of these things that is necessary for a person to have, during the year.
And so kind of in that vein of, again, services, particularly in the home, not just appointments and such, some of the other things that are being included in the supplemental benefits for 2022 would be such as a 24-hour nurse line with a bilingual medical advice, kind of making it so that it's not just making appointments and doing that and, following up with them as normal, but a little bit more kind of interactive and a little bit more constant, so to speak, if needed.
Yes, correct. And that is a really good benefit to have, because you can utilize that during, after hours that clinics are closed, during the weekends. If the person is feeling ill or anything like that, they can always do the 24-hour nurse line, and they can get advised by a medical assistant. And so that's a really nice benefit to have, just to make sure that if you do need to have urgent care services, you can obtain them. But also, if it's just something minor, you can also get that consultation over the phone.
Absolutely. So, of course, we've mentioned the website here a couple of times, but what are some other good numbers to get a hold of you all? People are wanting to, again, find out more information or find out the details about how they might be able to enroll.
Our main number is 1-833-742-3125. You can always call, and you will be directed to the right person to provide you the information that you need, or just any time that you would like to make an appointment. You can always call us, and we'd be happy to help.
Absolutely. So anyone that is particularly, mentioning getting into the system, embarking on this part of their medical journey at this stage in their life, because there are a lot of changes that are happening, whether it be, mentioned a couple of the qualifying ways, either reaching retirement age 65 or other qualifying events such as disability, that can lead to a lot of information coming at them. Is there any kind of general advice, kind of high level, like how to even consider all of this that you would give to people that are just beginning on this, or maybe feeling a little bit of trepidation about going into this and it being maybe overwhelming for them?
Well, I would recommend that you do speak to a licensed agent. Here at El Paso Health, we do have licensed agents that can assist you. I myself am one of them. And so what we do is that we provide the information that you need, whether it comes to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all of that. We give you the information. We help you, we guide you, we let you know what your options are, and then that way you can be informed and make the best decision for yourself.
Again, guest right now has been Viri Garcia, Medicare Manager with El Paso Health, speaking specifically about El Paso Health Plus, the Advantage Dual SNP. You want to find out any more information about them, open enrollment, and of course, all the things going on with all of these issues, give them a look up over online, ephmedicare.com. That's ephmedicare.com, or again, you can call their number 1-833-742-3125. That's 1-833-742-3125. So, Vidi, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today about some of these considerations, some of the local availability, and what you all are specifically providing and able to provide to those in our community here today.
Thank you so much.
Again, thanks to Vidi for that. Again, a little bit out of the normal vein here, but given that we got those impending deadlines for anyone that applies to, or maybe newly applying to, or have those qualifying events, important ones to keep in mind there. So that'll take us to that next break right now. Coming out of this break, talking more about some of those other situations definitely affecting us locally, including how some of those immigration situations, back and forth policy changes that have been more than a little bit in limbo, how that gets me seeing definitively in our area already, and what some of the future perspective on that is. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. More comments coming on that as well. So delve into all of that. And yes, Kathy, we should have that date corrected there, day of the week anyway. But all that more coming up out of this break. Here, stay tuned. More Talk El Paso, News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The El Paso County DA was a no-show this morning at a court hearing in downtown El Paso. It was a status hearing in Judge Sam Medrano's courtroom regarding the case against the suspected Walmart shooter. DA Yvonne Rosales and Assistant District Attorney Curtis Cox were not at the hearing. Charles Kyle Vance, an attorney from Houston, addressed the court today on behalf of the prosecution. Vance had asked for clarification for the scheduled upcoming November 30th hearing, citing that information was vague. There is currently a civil trial underway to remove Rosales from office, citing incompetence. That civil trial is set to start in March. A student with a handgun at Eastwood High School was taken into custody this morning. El Paso police say that the student is 14 years old. Police say the teenager was in possession of a handgun at the school. An educator at the school acted on an anonymous tip and took immediate action in notifying police, and school security located the student. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound at Piedras, an earlier crash there is blocking the right and the left shoulders. No lanes are blocked, but there is a big backup. 12-minute delays back to Yandell Drive. 54 south is slow from McCombs to Kenworthy with a 10-minute delay. Global Reach southbound from Liberty Expressway down to Montana, that's a 12-minute delay. An injury accident northbound Dyer at Rushing. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We woke up to some very cold temperatures, and by the afternoon with some sunshine, it kind of helped a little bit, but we are in for another very cold night tonight. Now, as we get going into Friday and Saturday, that's when we see our next weather maker making another impact in the borderland. This time around, here we go again, more winds and much colder temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by Dell Technologies.
Dell's Black Friday event starts now with up to $400 off on select XPS and Alienware PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors, plus special pricing on accessories and free shipping. Call 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Want to get a $300 Visa card from your Medicare plan? At WellCare, our Medicare Advantage plans are simplified so you can enjoy all the great benefits you care about most, like our WellCare Flex Card, a preloaded debit card that gives you up to $300 to pay for extra dental, vision, or hearing expenses not covered by your plan, like hearing aids, dentures, prescription glasses, copays, and more. It's just one more way WellCare is improving every aspect of Medicare to give you access to the top tier benefits you want most, plus a little extra. To learn more about WellCare, visit wellcarefornm.com today. That's wellcarefornm.com to enroll today. WellCare, it's Medicare done well. Benefits vary by plan. WellCare is the Medicare brand for Centene Corporation, an HMO, PPO, PFFS, PDP plan with a Medicare contract, and is an approved Part D sponsor. Our DSNP plans have a contract with the state Medicaid program. Enrollment in our plans depends on contract renewal.
For the local issues and discussion you won't get anywhere else, turn to Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 right here on News Radio 690 KTSM, brought to you in part by the El Paso Community Foundation. Sound off on what matters to you, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., and let's talk El Paso.
Halloween is over, but hiring is still scary. Indeed's end-to-end solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates. Sponsor a job and instantly receive a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit. This report is sponsored by Indeed.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. And a lot of comments coming in there, including Kathy Codry commenting on the weather changes that Flower Garden took a hit last night. I mean, we do occasionally get that, okay, maybe a little bit more this year. That first freeze still kind of coming through and pending. As I don't think it's hit in my neck of the woods just yet, but your mileage may vary. I mean, we got different weather patterns that come through different sides of town, different portions of our region here, and RJ commiserating, hoping they bloom again. But we do get, I'm going to, until proven wrong, refer to it, our 2-week trial period of winter every year. I don't know if we hit that just yet, but we are definitely in, well, what the rest of the country would call fall. But hey, we always do things a little bit differently here. There's a note on that, by the way. Consider this another public service mention that there is not going to be any trash collection on Thanksgiving and Black Friday this year by the city of El Paso. So if you're looking to get rid of some of those shopping debris matters or, well, from your family celebrations, whatever it may be, make sure you got enough room in the can to take care of that. And it will look like it'll be an interesting holiday shopping season, specifically looking like that there's going to be maybe strong spending. It's some of the initial expectations, because even though there are more of those inflation concerns and recession concerns, yes, I know the definition about it, but we have not seen necessarily a full contraction of the economy, and particularly locally or other regional areas. Your mileage may vary. Again, continuing. Still, keep it in mind, particularly if you're going to go throw elbows on Black Friday, which I got to say has not really been the same kind of Black Friday thing I remember several years back, going out and doing the whole, morning news show kind of thing, going and, we're looking at the line of people going into the mall kind of thing, except we kind of got punked unintentionally. That was mostly on us because, sure, the mall didn't open until like 6 a.m. All the individual stores were already open. So I guess the real semantic difference there was the fact that the like walkways or like the main entrance, like you'd still get into the individual stores. Their big entrances, just not the main mall one. So there were no lines, and we were just kind of sitting around there being like, okay. And it's not like this is a thing that's been a slow evolution. I didn't totally throw elbows, nor will I admit to having done such, but I consider myself having retired as champion of Black Friday several years ago when I managed to get those like one of 3, I think it was one of 10 at one of the area Best Buys, big screens they had that year, managed to secure that by, yes, being in line for way longer than I am willing to admit, but it just hasn't been quite that way anymore. I know some places are talking about that, and doorbusters definitely still exist here, but I will say, if we're seeing a trend back towards not being open necessarily on Thanksgiving, I think that's both a good choice and a humane one overall. Anyway, some of the other situations we got dealing with here locally besides the shopping one, of course, the immigration situations. A lot of flux that has, of course, been happening there, both with what was going on with city and county efforts and the federal kind of overwhelming nature. Again, you can still check out some of those details for yourself by visiting the Migrant Crisis Dashboard over on the actual El Paso, Texas.gov/migrant-crisis. Yes, that's the phrasing that they use. So I'm going to refer to it as such when I'm discussing their numbers and totals. They're still showing potentially getting towards, maybe not exactly record levels, but creeping back up towards the amount of community releases we're seeing in this area, even as the custody amounts do tend to still be trending downwards. That 7-day rolling average of encounters seems to be leveling out a bit, about somewhere in between the more recent within the last quarter or so. Lows versus highs, but some of the interesting situations being marked, including by reporting from El Paso Matters. Hundreds of migrants crossed into El Paso, spurred by Title 42 confusion, the headline of the article that you can see there, as well as more pictures being taken as of Wednesday night. People crossing the area, including some of those. It's a little bit hard to say exactly if some of the pictures that they've got over there are exactly where some of those protests or that one protest that was then repelled from this side of the Rio Grande was happening. But again, the confusion, because for anyone also confused about this, Title 42 has been the kind of last remaining border control policy whenever it comes to immediate removal. I mean, of course, yes, there are still the policies of going through immigration courts, which is still not exactly a favorable situation for anyone attempting to cross and claim such as asylum in this area, to my understanding, still in those above 90% rejection rates in our region. So that's a factor of it here. But the Title 42, of course, the pandemic era and Trump administration policy referencing immediate removal, because of, again, pandemic concerns and things like that. A public health order is kind of what it amounts to. That having been put into place when it comes to Venezuelans or those of Venezuelan points of origin by the Biden administration in previous weeks. And then, of course, this week, a federal judge said that Title 42 could no longer be enforced, but then another order coming down saying that, well, okay, that will actually start here in December. So giving about 5 weeks, I believe, was the estimate of time to make the adjustment. And as much as that it may be confusing for just even casual observers of this, those very much involved in it, I can't imagine the kind of considerations going through the actual authorities enforcing this, ICE, CBP, Border Patrol, etc. And that amount of confusion as well being looked at, by those attempting to cross themselves here. Again, El Paso Matters, actually speaking with some of those that were in custody at the moment of the interview. Anyway, claiming about 300 who had been camped along the Rio Grande surged into El Paso Tuesday night, apparently driven by confusion over the status of a controversial U.S. policy that allows for the quick expulsion from people of Venezuela and other countries, quoting from their first actual, the first paragraph of their article there. So as much as U.S. policy, the things being said by U.S. officials certainly seem to have some kind of an impact here, I got to say that a lack of clarity in messaging and, frankly, I got to say at this point, communication with those attempting to cross. I mean, as much as there is a marketing network that's pretty much obvious going on whenever it comes to those that have been led to believe certain things about what a crossing may or may not look like, and therefore why they should give their money to coyotes, cartels, all those kind of things. They've talked about these kind of like third country processing centers. Those have been brought up by even El Paso's Congresswoman Veronica Escobar and others, though I haven't seen any definitive movement that I can point to on that potentially being done. There maybe should be a more direct communication process, and I don't even know what that would look like, but given the fact that there is confusion, just expecting it to percolate down to those attempting crossings may not be exactly a good one for the future here. So again, Title 42 in place for the moment, though two factors, I guess, to consider there. A, there is the upcoming deadline of, I guess, now just maybe a little bit under a month away, I think, at this point, if I'm doing my math right, or let's call it about a month away. That I'm pretty confident about of it going away. But even then, given that these are court judgments and not actual policy statements or very much less laws being passed, would love to see that out of this lame duck Congress. Doubt that will happen. There are a lot of other priorities that have been mentioned, though, once we get into the new year and that next session of Congress, we'll see if this finally ends up making the priorities, because it's worth noting that there hasn't been major legislation passed when it comes to immigration, border security, control of it, in decades, I believe the amount is at this point here. So concerning, and whether or not it actually, it's certainly a campaign issue that was run on, but whether or not that actually then bears out through office, well, that's the difference in something that we'll have to keep an eye on there for sure. So let's go ahead and take that next break right now. Again, touching on that local situation being looked at, even if, again, the only constant has been change. We'll go and take that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we will go ahead and open up those phone lines as we usually do at this point during the program. So if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound is slow as you make your way through downtown because of an earlier crash on the 10 eastbound at Piedras. The right and left shoulders are blocked, and there's a backup to past Brown. 8-minute delays on the I-10 eastbound from Wyoming to Chelsea Street. Global Reach is slow with 18-minute delays southbound from the Liberty Expressway down to Montana Avenue, and an accident southbound Mesa Street at Sunland Park. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. This Black Friday, where do prices dropping mean upgrade your home shopping? Lowe's, actually. Black Friday is here. Save $1,179 on a Samsung bespoke laundry pair. Get the deals while you still can on appliances only at Lowe's. Offer valid through 11/23. Exclusions apply. See store for details.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now. So do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 and Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand. Finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Let's face it. Credit cards are pretty much a necessity.
New tires for the car? Here's my card.
I order takeout. Here's my card. And most of us just accept the high interest rates credit cards charge as a necessary evil.
What are you going to do?
Get a low fixed-rate credit card consolidation loan from Lightstream from $5,000 to $100,000 and pay off those credit card balances. Apply online, and you could get your money as soon as the day you apply. The average credit card company charges over 19% APR. But with Lightstream, you can get a fixed rate as low as 6.99% APR with autopay and excellent credit.
Now I can pay off my high-interest credit cards and save money with a much lower rate.
Apply today at lightstream.com/radio and get an additional interest rate discount. That's lightstream.com/radio. Lightstream.com/radio.
Subject to credit approval. Rates range from 6.99% APR to 21.49% APR and include a 0.5% autopay discount. Lowest rate requires excellent credit. Terms and conditions apply. Offers are subject to change without notice. Visit lightstream.com/radio for more information.
The future of audio is here, and it's always free. Listen to what you want, whenever you want.
I'm going to do that right now.
Download our free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts.
iHeartRadio. Staples is your one-stop destination for shipping supplies and services. And right now, get 50% off shipping boxes, mailers, or tubes when you buy 5 of the same item. Offer ends 12/31. Exclusions apply. Visit staplesconnect.com/shipping for details. Staples, the best-kept secret in shipping.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days. A lot of ways to interact with the show through those. Again, Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is where you can find us. I mean, yeah, Twitter's more like a DM or a respond to tweet kind of thing, but we try to keep our eye on it, even if we can't pop those comments up on screen. We, of course, have that phone line open now as well if you want to get on the line there. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, and a lot more to get to there, certainly, and we'll be doing those open throughout the rest of the program here, but again, that's the number to call if you want to get on the line there. One comment that I had saved over from yesterday that came in between the actual segments of the show here, weren't quite able to squeeze it in last week. There was a question about the actual vote totals for the for Donald Trump the previous time, and according to the sourced actually from the supporting documentation on it, actually, because that's the trick about if you are using Wikipedia as your sourcing, don't just go with the immediate thing, look at the behind the action sourcing. So it is backed up by the actual documentation from the Federal Election Commission that Donald Trump, yes, did receive the most votes of any previous Republican candidate, though it's kind of like an inflation question there as well, because I mean, percentages are important and the population is important. I mean, you could say that Donald Trump having received 74 million votes in the 2020 election would be several orders of magnitude more votes received than, well, Thomas Jefferson, though I wouldn't exactly call that a fair comparison, particularly since Thomas Jefferson, I think, won there's only about 104,000 votes out there at the time anyway. So, just saying, if that's important to you, yeah. But since the question was asked, I wanted to follow up on that. So let's get back. Let's get back into those calls now. We do have Eric on the east side here with us right now. Eric, thanks for joining us.
Hello there. Yeah, I called in yesterday, and sorry to start the calls out with a sour note, but you kind of strawmanned me. At the very end, like I'm used to like being strawmanned, like when I call in. But like for you to reference, something I had written and then strawman that, saying like I support kids smoking marijuana when you were promoting your false narratives about marijuana use, like you were referencing the right-wing propaganda outlets, KFOX. They're owned by Sinclair Broadcasting Group, and they had some random article about marijuana to scare people and to oppose the legalization of it.
Okay, we're going to be talking straw manning here. Hey, just a note on this constant back and forth on the logical fallacies. A part of it here, it's not a win button. You don't hit that and on being saying, oh, I won the argument, you have nothing to stand on, go away. It's at best a reminder to say, like, maybe you should reframe your argument, but also just to say that, well, I've claimed that you've made this error, therefore you have to change it. Doesn't also work that way, but let me be more specific. As much as you have definitely talked to me about not watching every second or every minute of something, if you haven't actually read the article that we're talking about, maybe not qualified to talk about that here. It was an article being done by our news partners there at KFOX 14 about issues going on within New Mexico and standards being wanted by those actual retailers of it right now. So maybe let's be informed about what we're actually talking about here. But what I said very specifically was, I am sure that you aren't in favor of there being more availability for kids there, even if you're saying that research into it is you're disagreeing with it here, because I mean, as much as you're taking anyone opposing you on issues as therefore being support immediately for the other side, which is its own logical fallacy, let's get perfectly honest with you here. But the idea of saying that, well, it's wrong, I'm sure, and I will still consider to say this and give you a chance to say this, I am sure you're not in favor of juveniles and those even under 18 or 21 at this point smoking marijuana, right?
Of course not. The basic research into the subject says that the brain, stops developing at 25. And I wanted to point out how you're not using the same logic as you literally said, oh, well, I'm going to leave things up to this person and his liver. Or just because someone's going to misuse guns, does that mean it should be criminalized? The exact same thing applies to marijuana. There are responsible ways of using it that don't cause mental degradation. These are things that we know about. If conservatives did basic research into these things, like the safety of marijuana in good faith, mind you, they're going to know that these messaging campaigns from right-wing media are trying to scare them into opposing people using it or having the freedom to consume it.
Again, I think that you're conflating issues you have with other people to what's actually been said by me or in general on this show here, because I think you'll find that my stance personally, as much as it's not too much of my focus here, when it comes to marijuana and when it comes to firearms, is pretty similar. Basically, unless you are committing crimes with it, that, yeah, it shouldn't be that much of an issue. Now, of course, when I'm referencing the scheduled nature of the substance, that's a federal issue. And if you want to see that change, sure, work on that here. But this is not some appeal to authority that, oh, it's illegal, therefore it must be bad. There's plenty of bad policy and laws that exist on the books for things like, reverse mortgage. I remember growing up, reverse mortgages didn't used to be a thing. And while, sure, there are some inherent dangers that may come from being used improperly, making it patently illegal because people can't be trusted with it, doesn't really work out either. So again, if you had issues with other people on these points here, you're welcome to do that. But let me just suggest to you again strongly that maybe talking about the issues the way we're actually discussing them here may serve you better if you're trying to convince someone. I'm not sure that's a decent goal on this show anyway. I just want people to actually talk about the things and make up their minds here. So tell you what, we're almost at the top of the hour here. As much as I appreciate a good debate on the nature of debate, we got to hit that hour for the top of the hour here. So thanks for the point in the call for what it's worth. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound is slow as you make your way through downtown because of an earlier crash on the 10 eastbound at Piedras. The right and left shoulders are blocked, and there's a backup to pass Brown. 8-minute delays on the I-10 eastbound from Wyoming to Chelsea Street. Global Reach is slow with 18-minute delays southbound from the Liberty Expressway down to Montana Avenue, and an accident southbound Mesa Street at Sunland Park. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Mom, Dad, let's talk. Before you know it, I'm out of here. I want to go to college or start a business. My allowance ain't gonna cut it. Ooh, sorry I said ain't.
The UNEST app puts smart investing tools right in the palm of your hand. And with the UNEST gifting link, friends and family can contribute to your child's account. Start investing today. Download the UNEST app from the App Store or Google Play. See terms and conditions at unest.co. That's UNEST.co.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. There's concern of a crippling snow event in Buffalo. Lisa G has the details.
It's already started snowing,
And by Sunday, Governor Hochul said Buffalo could be buried up to 6 feet in snow.
We'll continue our efforts, but it will not be safe for a considerable amount of time for motorists to go back on the roads.
The governor said the state is ready to deal with all the snow. 11 New York counties are already under a state of emergency.
The Biden administration is planning to ask the Supreme Court to revive its student debt relief plan. On Thursday, the Justice Department announced its plan to ask the court to reverse an injunction which has prevented the debt relief program from moving forward. 6 Republican state officials have filed a lawsuit claiming the program is unfair and unconstitutional. And a 3-judge panel voted to pause the debt relief while the lawsuit unfolds. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is announcing she won't seek re-election to House Democratic leadership. She could pass the torch to New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. If elected by his congressional colleagues, he'd become the first black representative to become minority leader. The Republican candidate in the race for Arizona governor is vowing to fight on in one of the nation's closely watched races.
I have assembled the best and brightest legal team, and we are exploring every avenue to correct the many wrongs that have been done this past week.
In a video message to supporters, Carrie Lake said voters were disenfranchised in the election between her and Democrat Katie Hobbs. Lake said she's put together a great legal team and they're looking at every option they have. The interim Uvalde, Texas police chief at the time of the Robb Elementary School shooting is resigning from the department. CNN reports Lieutenant Mariano Pargas is stepping down. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Employees at some Starbucks locations in New Jersey and around the country are walking the picket line today. Scott Pringle reports.
Corporate's gonna be a jerk and we're not gonna work.
Well, those folks walked the picket line outside the Starbucks in Montclair, and joining them, some other employees at Starbucks locations in Hopewell and Summit and elsewhere nationwide. Workers say they want better staffing levels, benefits pay, and schedules.
We're staffed so low that a single call out will shut down the entire store.
The coffee giant denies allegations of unfair labor practices and says it wants its employees to meet at the bargaining table.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is banning COVID vaccine mandates in public schools. The CDC is recommending that the shots be added to the back-to-school requirements, and many districts use federal guidance to craft their own policy. In a letter to superintendents, the Republican governor said parents have the ability to opt out of any vaccine. Tickets for Taylor Swift's upcoming tour are going for big bucks on the resale market. Michael Kastner has more.
Now we got one show in Tampa could cost someone more than $28,000. Her fans, affectionately known as Swifties, have been facing high prices and delays as they've tried to snap up tickets for the Bad Blood Singers tour. She hasn't gone on tour since 2018.
Michael Kastner reporting. The Justice Department is charging 8 people allegedly involved in an international monkey smuggling ring. Prosecutors claim primates that were poached from the wild were shipped to the U.S. after being falsely labeled as coming from breeding facilities. The indictment charges that a Hong Kong-based primate supply company worked with Cambodian black market dealers and corrupt officials to illegally ship long-tailed macaques to the U.S. for medical testing. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bills. That's bills. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and my company is Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 to provide custom blinds, shades, and shutters at affordable prices. Our blinds are easy to install and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive professional. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Water heating can account for up to 25% of the energy consumed in your home. Save money and energy and improve the comfort of your home by turning down the temperature of your water heater from 140 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It can save you up to 22% on your energy bill annually. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
The podcast, The Bible in a Year with Jack Graham, is a moving and inspiring biblical audio experience that will help you master wisdom from the world's greatest book. In each episode, you'll learn to apply biblical principles to everyday life.
Each cinematic episode is a journey through the Bible's most profound stories that will strengthen your appreciation of the Word and inspire you to keep learning.
Listen to The Bible in a Year with Jack Graham on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Get ready for the smartest bundle in streaming. 6 streaming services for the intellectually curious, featuring Curiosity Stream with the best collection of documentary films and TV shows, Psalm TV, and great stories from the world of wine, Tastemade for the fun side of food and travel, Topic with the best thrillers and crime stories, and so much more. From nature to history, technology to food, mystery to adventure. Get 6 streaming services for one low price at less than $6 a month. It's the best deal in streaming. Learn more and sign up now at smartbundle.com.
Join us on Thanksgiving Eve for our iHeartRadio Holiday Special 2022, starring John Legend, Alicia Keys, Backstreet Boys, Meghan Trainor, and Dan and Shay. November 23rd, starting at 7 p.m. on the free iHeartRadio app.
The iHeartRadio Holiday Special is brought to you by the Home Depot, where you'll find appliances to fill every holiday need. From cleaning those festive sweaters to storing your favorite holiday leftovers.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages that we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Really, whatever works for you, the best way that you can tune in and see and want to come into it, more than welcome to do so there. Of course, doesn't mean that we're always going to pop up the comments. Tend to do them as that makes most sense here. But, of course, I have that phone line open as well. Want to make your call in there. The number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. All I'm asking that, particularly if you're commenting on what I'm commenting about or responding to me, is actually listen to what I'm saying here. I don't usually give 2 bites of the apple here, but Eric McNabb still really pulling on that yarn and just really in favor of marijuana. They're saying part of me communicating a false narrative about marijuana and their safety. I want you to point out to exactly what I said about marijuana and safety. I mean, we're referencing some reporting that was coming out from our news partners there at KFOX 14 about some literal situations occurring in our area where, I mean, as much as you do what you want with, as long as you're not hurting anyone else about it, as a general principle. When in doubt, err on the side of liberty are the kind of things I like to talk about. I mean, yeah, there being things that being, suppliers supplying things badly or not really going by the idea of a consumer information or consumer protection, generally not going to be in favor of those kind of things. So if you're taking that as a narrative about all marijuana is bad, I'm going to need you to listen to what I'm actually saying, not any other narrative you're trying to pull in and talk about it here. If you want to talk about bad faith or at very least just complete ignorance about the actual discussion we're talking about here, I don't know what else to do for you there, my dude. Good luck with it, and wonder how fun you are at parties anyway. In any case, when it comes to, telling someone what they do or don't believe rarely works out for you. Let's just put it that way. Let's go back to those phone lines here. Let's, oh, God bless it. Sometimes I can't help but laugh to keep from crying in any case here. Let's get to those phone lines now. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Kevin on the east side here with us right now. Kevin, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hello, Andrew. Thank you very much. I'd like to comment about this Medicare Advantage or Medicare Plus or whatever they're calling it, or a help. Let's put it that way for people who have only Medicare and then they need some other plan to subsidize that.
Oh, sure.
And there's a cutoff, as probably everybody knows by now, of December 7th.
Correct.
And that's interesting. The way I look at it is this. If you want to go out and buy car insurance, you can buy car insurance practically any day of the week. House insurance the same way and all this. I don't understand why the federal government, I guess, is the force behind this, is telling us, okay, if you want to change your Medicare Advantage plan or Medicare Plus plan, you have during only a certain time period to do this. And I'd like to know why that is. It seems rather arbitrary. In other words, why can't you change your Medicare Plus plan anytime you want? I don't understand that. You know?
I mean, it is. You're accurate that it is more or less completely arbitrary. I mean, there were some questions coming up during the interview of what exactly was going on in terms of how this is formulated, and most of the way these are being done at this point in time. I mean, the whole idea of open enrollment. I mean, it used to be a thing with like if you had your insurance through your employer, that there'd be a certain amount of times that allowed for move around. But I mean, that really has come out of the Affordable Care Act, so-called Obamacare, as at least someone said it there, as essentially a move and done in deference to the insurance companies, because obviously they can do it at any point during the year. If you have those quote unquote qualifying events, such as, changing jobs or, reaching certain ages or qualifying for certain benefits, disability, those kind of things. So it's obviously not like it's impossible to do it any part of the year, but those are the way that essentially the current government regulations are done. So if you got issue with that, best way to do that would be to, talk with the representatives or look at the legislation being moved towards that, because that's where it really comes from.
That's good, because it does seem to me to be quite arbitrary, and the government doesn't tell me, as I say, when I can change my car insurance, house insurance, or whatever other kind of insurance I have, life insurance. But in this particular case, they do. And it just seems un-American to me that the government is going to tell you when you can do something that's you're paying for it. Medicare, okay, through your taxes and all that, everyone gets Medicare after 65, just about. But for these Advantage plans or Plus plans, who cares when you change those? It's just a philosophical difference I have with the government.
I mean, I can understand that. I think that's essentially the way, the grand bargain that I at least consider it ever since. I mean, that was kind of the start of my really paying attention to public policies and reporting on them more specifically at that point in time when these laws were being formulated, 2008 and on, was that essentially this was the grand bargain made between essentially the government and insurers, because, I mean, prior to this, the whole, prior existing conditions thing was a major hamstring for a lot of Americans. And I think that, it wasn't exactly said this way, but the way I think of it is that these kind of concessions, open enrollment periods, the initial requirement for coverage, which of course is now like you have to have it or have tax penalties, which of course that did go away, were essentially in deference to getting rid of that. And I think it's proven unpopular to anyone consider doing policy that would lead to the removal of there being, again, able to be pre-existing conditions, and therefore essentially a way that certain insurances can say, not our problem. That is pretty unpopular with Americans in general. Don't have a specific poll I can look at here, but at the very least, it's proven unpopular with politicians being willing to look at dealing with that. So those are part of the considerations. But honestly, given that these are essentially negotiations with a major industry, there's a lot of things on the table, so it's definitely worth taking another look at anytime that it can come up in legislation.
Yes, indeed. Okay, Andrew, you've explained that very well. I appreciate it, and I'll get off the line. You take care.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for the point in the call. You have a good one there.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. I mean, again, there's a lot of, any government program, any part of that anyone thinks is simple, I need to know which government program you're talking about, because I'd love to find out about it. I mean, there are regulations that go into it. I mean, even just trying to read through the laws themselves. You ever actually tried to do that? Like sit down and okay, Texas legislature, you can get through it decently, but once you start getting to the federal level, they just start getting so Byzantine and self-referential. Like they were referencing other parts of other bills, change this one line and change one word to you have to have degrees. And I'm not talking about you're not qualified to do it, but no, seriously, you need training to get through this kind of stuff, because it is just not simple. And which is why, as much as there has been previously suggested, I think it was Rand Paul that has suggested, Senator Rand Paul that has, or among others that have suggested the Read the Bill Act. I'm honestly not sure that in this day and age that would do much to add transparency to things, because even every bill comes with its own probably sizable glossary of footnotes and references that it's making. So to get through all the actual parts of each bill would take forever. Okay, that's hyperbole, but still it kind of feels that way. Anyways, get to at least one more call on the line. We will get to, if you want to, Yeah, interesting point there. As well as Mondo Moncada joining us over on the social media. Ted Core saying, is it the same for all medical insurance? My company has open season. So maybe there's some out there that do it, but anywhere that I've worked for or had people actually, conversation with people, yeah, the whole open enrollment season is a part of it. So at least one more call on the line. Again, that number to call if you want to get on the line, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Raul in the Northeast in line with us here right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. Well, regardless of what's happening and what happens in El Paso District Attorney Ivan Rosales' court, Trump terrorist Patrick Cursius, he'll get life imprisonment, if not the death penalty. Now, I happen to think that I'm against the death penalty. I'd like to spend the rest of his life in jail. Can't be a good thing, you know. His murder of 23 people in El Paso is the worst thing that has ever happened in El Paso. A friend of mine's uncle was murdered by this madman with an assault weapon who was incited to kill Mexicans by the racist and xenophobic rhetoric of traitorous moron T. Rump. And T. Rump's incendiary rhetoric continues. You know, at his announcement of his 2024 run for the president, he said, our southern border has been erased. And our country is being invaded by millions and millions of unknown people, many who are entering for very bad and sinister reasons. Now, it seems like the wall that Trump lied about building didn't keep all these people from coming in. Donald Trump is a dangerous man who has incited and ignited violence. His actions and words got 5 people killed when the Constitution and Congress were attacked at the Capitol during T. Rump's planned coup that almost got his VP hanged and risked the lives of prominent Democrats like Speaker Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Schumer and AOC and the Squad and other prominent Democrats. The Trumppublicans, God must have wanted Trump's coup to fail. Now, and then all these other lies he said, there has never been anything like it. He's talking about the economy. This great movement of ours, never anything like it. And perhaps there will never be anything like it. Again, a bowel movement is what I call it. Trump's bowel movement. That's what it is. Together we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. Now, isn't that a ridiculous thing to say? You know, the world's greatest economy was built after World War II, the post-World War II boom, and the expansion of the large middle class due to the GI Bill, the interstate freeway, again, government programs, there's some socialism, standardization of home loans due to the VA housing loans, and this expansion continued until Republican Ronald Reagan killed it with his Reaganomics, supply-side economics, trickle-down economics of huge tax cuts for the rich, and deregulation of the economy, leading to more economic instability and periodic recessions. It's the same old game plan. They don't have anything new.
Let me just say that trying to boil down through all of the, yes, definitely understand that you do not like the former and then candidacy of the former president, the pending one or the upcoming one, I guess would be the right way to say it nowadays here. But okay, let's talk about some of those policy aspects that you're referring to there. Not going to follow you down the road of referring to all government programs as socialism, because unless they're like buying public properties and turning them into, or buying private industry, rather, I guess I should say, and turning them into then publicly manhandled ones, that would not really hit it for me. But yeah, I guess the frustration I have is the way that we have gotten away from the basis of talking about things such as communism, socialism as what they were, as opposed to being kind of shorthand for bad in some people's minds here, which kind of doesn't really bear out with what they are here. But we're talking about investment and making it more possible for therefore private enterprise to take through. Would not exactly call that, well, socialism. I know there's some out there, the whole taxation is any taxation is theft crowd. And I mean, there's a certain amount of reasoning to be had there about how much and the way it's formulated, but the idea of making it more possible or places where private investment hasn't happened, that makes a certain amount of sense. But more broadly, when you're talking about the southern border and the parts of that there, and particularly the statements made out of, again, this now, the new campaign, the one that is moving forward there, I mean, I guess, are you particularly surprised that Donald Trump has been focusing on the border? I mean, there's a lot that came out of the way we came up to the wall and the considerations of it within the lead up to 2016 and, of course, in the lead up to 2020 as well. But that's one of the points that has been a hallmark of the Trump administration and the Trump campaign. So I guess I'm not surprised that he was talking about the wall here as both something great, but then also focusing on immigration. I mean, those have been the hallmarks of everything he has focused on. So saying that, I mean, I can't believe he's talking about this. I guess that's a little bit surprising to me that you're surprised by that about him. But when we come back to it, the idea of the August 3rd shooter and the impact on this community, I would practically agree with you on the most of the things you said about the shooter, except for the fact that when you're trying to then draw the larger political implications of it to someone else here, I don't think that serves this case well at all. And the idea of this inexorably moving towards some kind of summary judgment, no, not summary in this case, but ultimately it'll definitely happen. I think that you might be giving A, too much faith, or B, underestimating how much can happen within a trial and within a case here that have not handled very carefully. And I do mean very carefully, that this could go very wrong. And I still maintain that anything besides an actual verdict based on the evidence and what the jury decides here, anything technical nature happening, would be one of the worst outcomes for this community. So anything that would tend towards that or more lean towards that way, I'm going to find myself being opposed to. Anyway, got to take that next break now. So appreciate the point in the call for what it's worth here. Just in general, if you're actually talking about like the policy or the things we like to talk about, gives me a little bit more room to actually like talk back to you and like discuss things, opposed to just saying, well, I don't like this. Okay, good luck, have fun. We'll figure out what we can do actually with those issues here. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash I-10 eastbound at the Piedra Street exit is causing a backup to Porfirio Diaz. Traffic's moving, but it's still slow. And on the I-10 eastbound from the Patriot to McRae, it's a 5-minute delay. I-10 westbound after Dallas Street, a disabled vehicle's blocking the right shoulder. And you got slow traffic on Montana Avenue, both directions from Trowbridge to the Loop with 9-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
As you crunch the numbers trying to get the most out of your dollar, we'll throw in a $1,000 inflation bonus. Woo-hoo! Much better. Listen every hour from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win $1,000.
Listen to win $1,000 every hour, weekdays from 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. It's the 1,000 inflation bonus on News Talk 690 a.m.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. I sell custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters that are easy to install at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are custom-made for your windows, and I guarantee they'll fit. Don't hire a pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
At Affordable Dentures and Implants, that moment when we see a patient smile is everything to us. And we're proud to have helped millions of patients improve their smiles through affordable tooth replacement options. So whether it's a single tooth, full dentures, or dental implants, Affordable Dentures and Implants is here to help you. Go ahead and smile. Our new El Paso office, led by Dr. Kiso Uradiegu, is now open at 11917 Gatewood Boulevard West in Las Palmas Marketplace near Kohl's. To schedule a free new patient consultation, call 1-800-DENTURE or visit affordabledentures.com. That's 1-800-DENTURE or visit affordabledentures.com. Again, our new El Paso office is now open at 11917 Gatewood Boulevard West in Las Palmas Marketplace near Kohl's. Affordable Dentures and Implants. Go ahead and smile.
Go ahead and smile.
Research shows listeners prefer a personalized experience. So to help you remember, Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance. We personalized this ad for Amber, who really misses boy bands from the 90s.
Hey girl, I'm the cute one, here to tell you how Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
I'm the heartthrob. The only thing I love more than you is saving. And I'm the other boy in the band everyone forgot about.
Just happy to be here. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for tuning in, however you may be doing so. Thank you for tuning in here for Talk El Paso, airing on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, more or less the main one where the most comments come in anyway. So if you want to wade into the Thunderdome of comments there and add your 2 cents, well, just know forewarned is forearmed. That's where the Skeptic Squad assembles just about every day. And consensus is, let's call it fleeting, but if you're willing to make your point and stand by it, you might have an interesting time. That's what gives me life about the comments for the most part here. A lot of people tuning in and chiming in there, but less, a lot of comments coming in. I'll check out some more of those here in just a second. One comment that came in off air from a caller who didn't want to get on air, Patrick, saying essentially an issue with attributing all deaths happening at a protest to those on the other side, referencing what was brought up there about the January 6th riot at the Capitol, as there being essentially one death day of one of the protesters shot by Capitol Security. Don't know exactly which actual agency it was at that point here, but that the other deaths referenced there were those of Capitol police officers in the following days or weeks here. So wanting to bring up a question about that there. But and appreciate the comments there. We'll get into a few more here, but let's get back to those phone lines here. We got time to squeeze in at least one more this segment, taking them through the end of the hour, don't worry, but got to squeeze in what we can this segment. Right now we do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, Andrew, thank you. And reference Medicare.
Sure.
Very complicated. It's just as complicated as the IRS tax code, probably even more so. So I would suggest, go to a expert in the fields and see what your options are. Because even if you have your own insurance after retirement, it can get a little bit complicated.
That's pretty much an understatement. It does feel like. I mean, okay, I've never had to go through Medicare, Medicaid, any of those more public-facing programs, but having had, say, significant, issues with my insurance at previous employers, or even some of the like workman's comp part of it here, Byzantine and complicated and labyrinthine, any phrase you want to use it that tries to communicate the idea of being complicated and not at all intuitive. I mean, like, I didn't even know, and this is not even necessarily a Medicare thing, of the first birthday rule whenever it comes to those considering or having children here, that the actual application of the insurance will not be whichever parent you want it to be. It will be whatever parent happens first within the calendar year. Randomly. Like, that just makes no reasonable sense, except someone said, well, we need to delineate it somehow. Let's go off this. Sure, why not? Like, it starts feeling like monkey in a dartboard territory sometimes when you get down real specific.
It is complicated, and the cost of Medicare Part B did go up. It is going down a little bit January 2023, but not much. And I feel sorry for these individuals who are depend on Social Security as their primary income, because that's a big chunk of money right there.
Yeah, I mean, particularly impacts on those with fixed incomes whenever it comes to changes to things like Medicaid, Medicare supplemental plans. The Part B, like you're referring to there, can certainly make it difficult, and that's why it's worth talking about, because assuming people will just choose whatever's best for them. I mean, anytime we're talking about this, you got the potential for people being pushed off of the possibilities, essentially.
Well, when I'm ready for that stuff, I'm going to definitely retain a tax attorney and get the full scoop. But anyway, I did want to comment, on what Comrade Raul said.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do not know all these people that are coming in. Okay, yes, there's a lot of individuals that by necessity, but there are a lot of criminals coming in.
I mean, the fact of the matter is there are apprehensions happening of it here. I mean, anywhere for saying to be a majority of things would be incorrect, but there is a definable number, at least the ones that have been. I mean, I get the emails daily. Let me look at it here. For instance, email got into not quite an hour before showtime here, saying that 138 non-citizens identified as convicted sex offenders arrested during National ICE operation. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is that when we have an undefined or a lack of complete enforcement on the border, I don't totally subscribe to the comments and narratives out there about lack of operational control at the border, particularly on this side of it. I mean, south of the border, yeah, make no claim on that. But the fact of the matter is that in this day and age, given the technology that is available, even just in monitoring, there should not be a circumstance, except for logistics, essentially, that there is not a reason that we know everyone and essentially, the provenance of anyone that is crossing the border at this point in time. The idea of it being able to be a civ like this, regardless of whatever you think immigration policy should be, the fact of the matter that can happen just does not make sense in this day and age.
True. And like I've said before, I've dealt with foreign nationals in my line of work, and about the only thing that can be done in that case at the time was turn them over to INS at the time, and they were deported. And the situation is only going to get worse because yesterday the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said it is the goal of the next Congress or the Senate to give these individuals a pathway to citizenship, whether they are dreamers or illegal aliens in the country. Well, he didn't use the word illegal aliens. I used the word illegal aliens. But anyway, that's all I have to say on the matter.
Oh, sure thing. I mean, yeah, I know that there's been some talk of that. I think a little bit more local to Texas, Joaquin Castro has, again, securing his reelection, has been pushing for in that lame duck session. A lot of focus going to be happening on what can be pushed through here beyond just policy statements, because, again, there is the Congressional Review Act that allows for any policy changes done in the last, I think it's 90 days of the previous session of Congress to be reviewed. So they're going to be looking for actual definable laws to be passed here. Some of those examples coming up with, say, some of the marriage statutes that have been being discussed so far. But yeah, when it comes to immigration, he's wanting to see specifically, I think he was calling for DACA, so the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, seeing some action on that. So I think that will be a focus in its own right as we get through these next couple of months.
Yes, well, he did specifically mention, he not only mentioned DACA, but he also mentioned pathway to citizenship for all individuals living illegally in this country.
Yeah, so again, that'll be part of the conversation. So we'll see what actual legislation comes out and what can be, I mean, they're going to have a lot of competing priorities for this last session, particularly within the House of Representatives, and a hell of a lot of focus coming up, of course, towards the Georgia election. So one of those things we'll have to keep our eye on.
Yes. Oh, by the way, Georgia election, go Herschel Walker.
Fair enough here. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we got to take that next break right now. Again, if you want to get on the line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. The El Paso County DA was a no-show this morning at a court hearing in downtown El Paso. It was a status hearing in Judge Sam Medrano's courtroom regarding the case against the suspected Walmart shooter. DA Yvonne Rosales and Assistant District Attorney Curtis Cox were not at the hearing. Charles Kyle Vance, an attorney from Houston, addressed the court today on behalf of the prosecution. Vance had asked for clarification for the scheduled upcoming November 30th hearing, citing that information was vague. There is currently a civil trial underway to remove Rosales from office, citing incompetence. That civil trial is set to start in March. A student with a handgun at Eastwood High School was taken into custody this morning. El Paso police say that the student is 14 years old. Police say the teenager was in possession of a handgun at the school. An educator at the school acted on an anonymous tip and took immediate action in notifying police, and school security located the student. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
An earlier crash I-10 eastbound at the Piedra Street exit is causing a backup to Porfirio Diaz. Traffic's moving, but it's still slow. And on the I-10 eastbound from the Patriot to McRae, it's a 5-minute delay. I-10 westbound after Dallas Street, a disabled vehicle's blocking the right shoulder. And you got slow traffic on Montana Avenue, both directions from Trowbridge to the Loop with 9-minute delays. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We woke up to some very cold temperatures, and by the afternoon with some sunshine, it kind of helped a little bit, but we are in for another very cold night tonight. Now, as we get going into Friday and Saturday, that's when we see our next weather maker making another impact in the borderland. This time around, here we go again, more winds and much colder temperatures. Log on to kfoxtv.com for your latest forecast.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Do you know who Eli Whitney is? Well, he's sort of Steve Jobs before Steve Jobs. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, El Paso, Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. The Black Friday sales event starts now, so do yourself a favor and don't wait. Beat the rush and get door-busting Black Friday deals on every single new and certified pre-owned vehicle all month long.
Trade and upgrade for less with huge Black Friday savings all month long at Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. Upside down your current trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, regardless of make or model. Save thousands with 2.9% APR for 72 months, plus $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star with no payments till next year. Get $3,000 off MSRP on the all-new 2022 Dodge Charger GT, SXT, and on the all-new redesigned 2022 Jeep Compass with no payments till next year. All military personnel and first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, where buying a car is fun. At I-10 and Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina El Paso strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 2.9% APR is $15.15 per thousand finance on select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. I sell custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters that are easy to install at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are custom-made for your windows, and I guarantee they'll fit. Don't hire a pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk, which apparently, at least over the YouTube, a robust discussion about my poker face or the microtel is giving me away. I mean, never pull out cards around any of y'all here. And yes, my eye starts twitching, like, sure, I'm sure that'll be a good tell. Don't think it's happened yet, at least not that I've noticed anyway. But yeah, interesting discussion going on over there. But some of those chiming in on those pages here and also dropping those likes and reacts that we do appreciate. Some of the most recent ones over on the various social media. Well, this is primarily the Facebook. Glenn Stewart, Richard Janasik, Ion Graham, Flaco Jimenez, James Holmes, Robbie Flores, Ida Beza Gardner, and Monica Cervantes. Again, you don't have to do that, but if you appreciate the ability to have the conversation about the things affecting us here in the borderland, well, drop that like, drop that little react, give it a share, give it a follow, whatever is appropriate for the platform you're on, and tell a friend more specifically so we can get them involved in talking about the things that affect us here, because not talking about it, don't think that served us that well. Let me just put it that way here. So to that point here, also Mac Rios, and appreciating the show, appreciate that. And Mondo Mancanda liking the music here. Interesting point. Or maybe if we ever have one of those in-person events, talk more about that. But in any case, let's back to those phone lines right now. Again, if you want to get on the line, squeeze in before the end of the show, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Stephen on the east side here with us right now. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Andrew.
Hey there, what's on your mind?
Yeah, since the border came up again, I don't know if you saw that report last month of October. I think there was 200,000 crossings, but the Border Patrol reported something of, I think, on the order of 87,000 gotaways. Did you see that?
Yeah, so I think that part of that report about the crossings, it may have been encounters. There's very specific language to look at with those here, because as much as we see, I mean, there are some of the data that can be looked at, say within the El Paso Texas.gov migrant crisis dashboard. That's elpasotexas.gov/migrant-crisis, showing the releases happening in the community. And so those are definable persons here, but a lot of the CBP, ICE-DHS, et cetera, data ends up being encounters. So regardless of if it's the same person or not, if it happens on, like, say, 2 separate days, or even, I guess, technically maybe 2 times within the same day, that would be considered an encounter. But yeah, the gotaways, that report is an interesting one, because there's always a little bit of estimation going on in that as well. And it kind of begs the question of, we don't know what we don't know. So what isn't being included in that? But yeah, the ones the situation we've seen over the last, let's call it 4+ years, has been people seeking to cross the border, presenting themselves to authorities for the whole, asylum part of things, wanting to get into the process there. And I think I'm not going to say exactly that the horrific incident that happened in San Antonio with those left, a whole trailer full of people jam-packed in there and just left to die, was a major turning point in that, but it definitely is an inflection point, showing that there has been beyond the just, show up at the border, present yourselves, and take your chances with the system kind of thing, to it being back to old quote-unquote system of sneaking through, hoping to have no interaction with authorities in any way. And that's what that increasing number kind of reflects in the way I think about it anyway.
Right. And the idea is, if you see someone who's crossing the border and they're checked and they're screened, I mean, they're going to be able to maybe get some information on that person, but it's not the same vetting process that someone goes through whenever they go through the full immigration process. And I've been through that. My wife is an immigrant. I lived in South America for a little while, and so we went through the whole process. And of course, it has all kinds of things. It includes things like, your vaccinations, police background check from the country you're from. It's a pretty detailed, extensive process. It's a much better vetting process when someone comes legally, and that's, I think, where most Americans have a beef, because we accept more legal immigrants than any other country in the world through that legal process, and you don't really see anybody complaining about that. That's why, the leftists will try to use the saying, "Oh, you're just racist and white supremacist and all this stuff," but in reality, you won't see anybody having a problem unless they actually, the small percentage who have a problem with legal immigration. But it's a process that's very useful, because when the person who's coming over learns English and learns the civics and is better to be integrated into American life, and it's just better for everybody. It's better for them. It's better for the society as a whole. And it goes to the whole e pluribus unum concept.
Yeah, essentially when it comes to the body politics as well, the out of many one idea of it being that, sure, we can all have our own individual identities. And I mean, there was the melting pot concept for a long time here. I kind of reject the idea that anyone has to surrender their identity and culture of it, but there are certain things that, I mean, you're going to any country, there are going to be certain norms you're going to encounter there. And at the very least, if you're going to want to be a citizen of a country, being able to be an actual part of it, a part of the public life, and not just kind of along with it and cast on the winds of fate, as I sometimes say, is an important one. I mean, I want that for any student coming out of our schools here in the United States, being able to fully participate and understand and be able to, again, take advantage of the systems in the way that they are and actually be able to use them. The same for anyone becoming a citizen from whatever avenue that may be. I will say there have been some of those that, I mean, we have a fraught past in this country when it comes to immigration. I mean, there were, quotas, restrictions, those kind of things, and done in very suspect ways. So anyone proposing that for the future, it's not going to fly with me. But the idea of, particularly when we got this divide between the legal or the illegal methods of immigration here, I mean, yeah, the ones that are legal are very stringent. They are supposed to be. And so it being anything less than, I guess that's where the big kind of is referring to, the frustration comes with whenever it's that part of the illegal immigration. Now, I don't agree rather with the idea of punitive natures of it, because I don't think that is well, referenced and likely to be able to actually be done given the reality of the situation. I mean, again, the whole 11 million present in this country stat from years ago, I think that's been upgraded to like 14 or 15 last I saw. The idea of mass upheaval of all of that would be unreasonable without a truly draconian set of measures coming in. Like, it's unreasonable at this point in time without, again, a hell of a lot more going on with it. But more specifically, the idea of there being some kind of pathway or movement and it requiring steps, that's what I see as maybe being possible in the near-ish future, but we'll really see what comes out of this next Congress. That'll kind of set the tone for what could be possible next.
Yeah, I mean, just 80. If it's really 87,000 gotaways, though, that is unacceptable, because those are people that they didn't even go through the least of a screening process, and that's where, things are really, if some people are getting in here who actually are dangerous, and they're among those gotaway groups, there's just no way of knowing. And I don't think that's something that's sustainable. But I think part of the strategy is basically to overwhelm the system. If the system is overwhelmed in such a way that there's no way that we could ever try to go back and try to fix it, then you do have to do the kinds of things that like you're talking about. It's like, well, now it's impossible to go back. And I think that was part of the strategy all along. And that was a relatively new strategy, because if you listen to Chuck Schumer yesterday versus Chuck Schumer 10 years ago, I mean, it's a completely different person. He's saying, illegal immigration is wrong, and we need a border fence and all that stuff. Like, all the Democrats were like that, but 10 years later, it wasn't popular, so they changed their tune on that. But I totally agree with you that, I don't expect people to totally get rid of their own culture and everything. I mean, I love my wife's culture. I love her country, but it's coming to a country is also becoming part of that country. Just like I learned the language when I went over there, it's a good idea to learn the language of the country you're living in, and taking some learning about the culture and the civics and everything. Obviously, to a certain extent, I mean, there's some countries where you can subjugate women and they can't drive and all that kind of stuff. You can't bring those cultural aspects into the United States of America. We have our rules here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, as much as there are going to be other countries that have that I may or may not ever actually end up visiting, might not be exactly the part that I would participate in there, because even though the laws and norms of every country may be their own, I think that morals and what should or right should be done is pretty well international. But yeah, I mean, we got the Overton window you're talking about there with Chuck Schumer's comments, the basically what is considered acceptable in the, I mean, if you want to try to put it on a graph line, there's a lot do, even though we're talking about very disparate kind of subjects here. It definitely has shifted when it comes to this conversation, and it will probably continue to do so. Much as I've talked about the immigration situation itself, the way it's legislated, the only constant there has been flux, except for the fact that nothing's really been passed in the past few decades. So I'd like to see that norm change, definitely.
Yeah, and then my final point is I warned you about the TDS syndrome, that it's going to keep going on and maybe even get worse. I mean, you could sit there and point by point debunk every single argument that is made, and it won't matter. They'll come back the next day with the same argument as if you never even had a discussion about it. I mean, you can have a discussion about this guy Crucius who murdered people here in El Paso, and supposedly, well, if you criticize illegal immigration, then you are part of the reason why he murdered those people, and therefore you can't criticize immigration because you're part of the problem. But they'll never turn around and look and say, I think these police were hit yesterday and potentially murdered a couple of them. And, if you say, well, you can't criticize police because someone who's crazy might try to attack police, or that Bernie Sanders guy who attacked police and shot people at the baseball game. They'll only look at one side, and no matter how many times you break it down and try to have a reasonable discussion and see both sides of it, the syndrome that they have does not allow them to be reasonable. So that's what you're dealing with, and I'm sorry for you for that, having to deal with that.
I've signed up for this. I know what I'm in for, and looks like we'll be in for at least another couple of years for it in any case, but I'm ready for it as he can be anyway.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too as well. Appreciate the point in the call there here. I mean, if anyone is saying that they don't like a certain I mean, of course, entitled to your opinion when it comes to liking or disliking any candidates. But if you're going to call in here and say they like or dislike someone for anything besides like specific reasons, if it boils down to, oh, well, this person's a bad person and I don't like them, or orange mad bad, or any of those kind of analogies, probably not going to have that great of a time. Want to talk about the policies? Heck yeah, let's get into it and say the comparison of them. But in the meantime, yeah, I think we have time for one more quick call. We do have Johnny over in Central with us right now. Johnny, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon. Before I get to my subject, I'm going to get right to it. I'm looking at the clock here, so I know you're running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
Your last two callers, I noticed the last gentleman, I liked his language, and I understand that his wife is from another country, so he's more understanding of you call people coming from this country. I mean, coming from another country. The call before you, he proudly called the people illegal aliens. I've mentioned this before in the past. There's no such thing as an illegal alien unless you're coming from another planet. Aliens are from another planet. But he said it very proudly, illegal aliens. So anyway, I hope the gentleman let this suck in, that the correct word is like your last caller is immigrants, whether you're legal or undocumented. Immigrants from another country. I know because I worked in that business for 17 years. I know the correct language. Now, to get on to the reason for my call, go ahead. You want to say something or what?
No, go ahead. Get your point out here since we got that time crunch.
Okay, I'm looking. So the radio show before you, I was driving around. I didn't know because I was waiting to get to your show, so I just turned the channel on about 15 minutes before talking about the Hannity. I could not believe that what they were talking about. As I said before, I try to look at both sides of the aisle, and they're talking about this new Congress going to be talking about zeroing in on Hunter Biden. I mentioned this before. I don't care which side you're on. I don't want to hear anybody talking about the Trump children. If that Trump had won or whatever, I want them to talk about the leader. Talk about what we're going to get done with our country. But it seems like to me they're already going to antagonize the people by zeroing in on someone who's not even in the leadership in Congress or whatever. Your thoughts real quick on that. Could you please expand on that?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, I think that has, I mean, the whole Biden thing, I mean, I think that essentially some see it as kind of almost payback for the January 6th committees of then looking into the Biden administration, or even going further back into the impeachments that happened of the former president. So I think that there's a level of that. But yeah, and Hunter Biden being a focus, I mean, whatever legal consequences that individual deserves should be fully served out. It being the subject of a congressional investigation, I guess that ends up slapping more a little bit to me like, well, the punitive nature is pretty much the forefront of it there, because usually it's not individuals like that, particularly not in public office, that end up being the focus of public inquiry of that level. So I think that there's probably going to be a push towards it, whether it actually succeeds or not. I think that'll be largely up to leadership within the House, as those elections will be ongoing once the next actual session of Congress begins here. But let me just say this. Whenever it comes to references, I definitely dislike the term personally illegals, because I mean the whole phrase that no one is illegal and referencing that as the very nature of a person just smacks wrongly for me. But let me just say that as much as the alien part of it may be disconcerting to you, it is still a part of, I mean, even under as of most recently today, actually, some updates coming out of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that those are some of the actual terms, non-resident alien. So as much as you may not like those kind of termings or their phraseology, I mean, also even within the IRS, that a resident alien for tax purposes is a person who is a U.S. citizen or foreign national who meets either the green card or substantial preference test as described in IRS publications. So it is still a part of the legal terminology, even if it is not the common public parlance of it anymore. So also I have a preference for it over other ways to describe it here. But we're going to have to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, tell you what we got coming up for you on the show, as well as, well, I guess prepare for Friday at this point. So stay tuned. We'll talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heads up, you might see some slowing South Desert Boulevard at Artcraft. A multi-vehicle crash. I don't see any closed lanes, but you might encounter some slowing. 54 southbound is slow. Stan Roberts to Trans Mountain, 23-minute delays. 15-minute delays on the 10 eastbound from Dallas to McRae. And Joe Battle southbound at Montana. A semi is blocking the right shoulder. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle, and my company is Blindster.com. I started Blindster in 2010 to provide custom blinds, shades, and shutters at affordable prices. Our blinds are easy to install and shipping is free. Don't hire an expensive professional. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
Get ready for the smartest bundle in streaming. 6 streaming services for the intellectually curious, featuring Curiosity Stream with the best collection of documentary films and TV shows, Psalm TV, and great stories from the world of wine, Tastemade for the fun side of food and travel, Topic with the best thrillers and crime stories, and so much more. From nature to history, technology to food, mystery to adventure. Get 6 streaming services for one low price at less than $6 a month. It's the best deal in streaming. Learn more and sign up now at smartbundle.com.
Hey, I'm Steve Ranella. From the rainforests of Alaska to the coast of Hawaii, I follow trails of all kinds with good friends through wild places. This is our land, and this is our season. Stream the premiere of Meat Eater Season 11 exclusively and free of charge at themeateater.com. And while you're there, find incredible deals on some of my favorite hunting gear from First Light, FHF gear, and Phelps game calls.
Research shows listeners prefer a personalized experience. So to help you remember, Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance. We personalized this ad for Amber, who really misses boy bands from the 90s.
Hey girl, I'm the cute one, here to tell you how Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
I'm the heartthrob. The only thing I love more than you is saving. And I'm the other boy in the band everyone forgot about.
Just happy to be here. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Thanksgiving is more than cranberry sauce. It's about turkey. The 46th annual Turkey Trot. Put your running shoes on and meet us at the corner of St. Vrain in Montana. There's a 5K and a 1-mile fun walk, all to benefit our local YMCA. For registration info, go to elpasoymca.org. That's elpasoymca.org. Or at 6 a.m. on race day, Thanksgiving Day, November 24th. Trot on!
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Super out of time for this program, so got to, of course, remind you that we got coming up for you tomorrow, Friday, Free for All Friday. That's what we call it. That's what it is. And what it means is that we're taking on all the comments and calls we can squeeze into 2 hours of the show here. The pressure to leave out for the week, and oh boy, do I feel like it's going to boil over this time. But of course, we'll keep talking about the things that affect us here in the borderland. But I want to thank everyone that did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show in any way. Seriously, regardless of what any individual may think, say, or feel, I do appreciate all of it. And think that it can hopefully contributes to a greater awareness, or at the very least ability to talk about these things in our region and beyond. But yeah, make no claims that far. But until we're back with you live again tomorrow, 4 to 6 p.m. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. And have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Heads up, you might see some slowing South Desert Boulevard at Artcraft. A multi-vehicle crash. I don't see any closed lanes, but you might encounter some slowing. 54 southbound is slow. Stan Roberts to Trans Mountain, 23-minute delays. 15-minute delays on the 10 eastbound from Dallas to McRae. And Joe Battle southbound at Montana. A semi is blocking the right shoulder.